What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Everyday Hustle Show, where we're figuring it out together over time. This is the 22nd recorded episode.
Yep.
It's Saturday night here. We'll be rolling out this episode tomorrow, Sunday, May 27th. And we're back with another guest tonight. Mm-hmm. So before we dive into all of that, though, Christian, how you doing? How you feeling, man? How was this past week for you?
It was good. I'm feeling good. Past week was, I'm working in Miami, so traffic is like killing me. You know, I have to drive probably a good 2 to 3 hours in traffic every day, so.
Yeah, I know, that's like there for a year. So, you get the company car though, right?
Yeah, I got the company van, but like the past 3 weeks, I was talking to Frank about it actually last week. Like my gym schedule has been kind of off and, you know, kind of throwing me.
Gym schedule?
Yeah.
You lift?
Every once in a while.
You just said that he hadn't left in 3 weeks.
Besides today.
Oh, besides today. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been throwing me off a little bit, but overall it's not bad, man. I've been doing a lot of like new stuff. You know, I changed a couple motors this week with the help of my supervisor. So overall, good week. Not too bad.
So you've been sitting in a lot of traffic this week.
A lot of traffic.
Yeah.
A lot of traffic. So.
Jesse, how are the levels?
Beautiful.
All right. How you doing, dude? I know you were on vacation, dude. Tell us about
it.
That's
right.
Yeah. It was a good time. It was kind of like a vacation that was not necessarily uneventful. Like we just kind of were at my family's house, hanging out.
Where?
Chilling, Pennsylvania. Spent a lot of time with my sister and her kids and
Uncle Jesse.
Uncle Jess.
Yeah. Did you buy him any presents?
No.
You didn't bring him nothing, dude? No seashells?
Just
or
me.
anything? No?
Just me.
The older one's coming down here in a couple months.
Nice.
How old is she?
She'll be 7.
She's flying by herself?
No.
Yo,
Is that a real question?
Yeah, I flew by myself the first time when I was like, probably like 12.
Yeah, but I'm
That's a little old.
7.
Yeah, that's a little bit
By
old.
yourself? You flew on an airplane when you were 12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they like walk each other from.
Yeah, they help you. Yeah, it's actually when they know you're by yourself, like they'll have someone pretty much by you. I'm pretty sure. I can't really remember, but.
It was great.
I mean, come on, dude. You introduced your girlfriend to your
That's
parents.
right.
No, I know.
Come on,
That was like the
You
majority.
gotta give us a little bit more. I mean,
That's right.
It was a great time. Everyone loved her. You know, the weather was similar to what it was here. It was just like half rainy, half nice. But we had a couple family get-togethers, and it was a great time. It was great to be off of work.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like
so great to be off of work.
is this like the first like serious relationship you've been in
In a long time.
Yeah. So they're probably happy to meet. You know.
Oh yeah, like my parents probably would be like, they're probably like, oh please marry. Like
Yeah. Shout out to Helena.
Helena told me on the way back that like the last morning we were there, I was like getting a bag and she was sitting there with my mom, and my mom was like, please take care of him. She's like begging and crying, but
it's her duty to take care of you now.
yeah, I haven't been in a
Bonnie,
relationship.
Shout out to Bonnie.
I can't even tell you. The last serious relationship was probably in college.
It's like 08.
Like I'm talking, 8 years ago or some shit.
It's an interesting thing, relationships. You know, you start to learn a lot about yourself. You know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. But that's cool, man. I'm glad that you had fun.
Yeah, it's
I know
a
you've
good,
been working hard,
it's a
so
good
any
thing.
time that you can get, you know, I can't remember the last time I took, actually, I guess I can't remember the last time I took a vacation, but I've been on vacation for 3 months since I got laid off from my job, but that's awesome, man. It's always good to get a week, you know.
Oh, it's
A
great.
week is like the most minimum that you can take,
Yeah.
like, where it actually feels like a vacation. Like, it's nice to go away like Friday to Monday, but then it's like,
It's
4 days, 3 days, you're traveling, it's like...
And especially like with the like the recent changes at work or whatever, like moving up, like I'm getting bombarded all day, every day with something. And it's like, I'm handling it, but it's a lot. So just to get away from that for 6 days was...
decompress, and you get back and you're focused and you're on your ball.
Got back to a Bible's worth of paperwork to do.
Yeah, well, we talk about it, man. You know, you could. Most people have jobs or positions like that. They gotta bring it with them sometimes. So sometimes you gotta do that.
Yeah, I did actually have. I had to like pull my my laptop out this Saturday. I was up there and like make calls and do a bunch of shit because some shit happened. But
well, good. We don't want to talk too much about you.
Yeah, let's buzz off a minute.
All right, so Christian, you can go ahead and introduce our guests, and we'll dive right in.
Yeah, definitely. So tonight we have Anne Marie, and personally, the reason why I threw her name into possible people that we would interview, and we're talking about it, I think for a good while.
We've been trying to get her to come out for a while.
Yeah, a good while. We were talking beforehand, and like the whole premise of the show to me is like self-development. And we've had a lot of people that we've interviewed from like different walks of life. We've had a tattooer, a photographer, and a few other people that, people that own businesses and stuff like that. And I think the overall like idea of the show is just to kind of get, outside perspective, in general. But in this case, you went to school for psychology and mental health, and you currently work as a clinical director, and for us, we talked about it a little bit in the past, but we haven't really dived into like our personal relationship with addiction or anything like that. And for myself, that's like a huge part of like my story, and more importantly, recovery. So I'm really excited. I think this is like a good, time. I've been wanting to kind of talk about it for a while on the show, and just never really, got a chance to. So that's why I wanted to have her on the show, just to kind of be able to have a discussion, because I think mental health and like addiction is like such a big topic in today's world overall, but especially like for myself and like, people that I know, like friends and family and stuff like that. So that's why I wanted to get her on.
Yeah, for sure. So are you originally from Florida?
I am.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Margate.
Okay.
And then I actually lived here my entire life. I lived, 2 years in New York and back in Florida.
Okay. And then I kind of got a little bit of rundown. You seem highly educated from what Christian has told me, where you went to school. And so did you go right from high school to FAU?
I took like 6 months off, and then I went to community college for 2 years, and then transferred to FAU 2 years, and then from there went to grad school.
Okay, yeah,
that was all done.
That's why I asked. Education is such like a controversial topic, in the podcast space, or really like
entrepreneurs.
People. Today, I feel it's a little bit different the way that education is structured and laid out. Most people are under the pretense now that you don't need it, right? So I think it's very interesting when someone has been through all that, and has a perspective that they could share with us about, their path. So I'm interested to kind of pick your brain a little bit about that. But I know that there are certain jobs where you need education and you can't, work in certain fields, and then there are certain jobs where you kind of learn as you go. Right. But the field that you're in, I definitely, know that the education is necessary. So what was it like majoring in psychology as like an undergrad?
Where I went was FAU, so it was very research based. But you learn a lot, and then there's nothing you really can do with that degree. So you have to keep going. So it wasn't until I went to grad school where I really started the counseling, courses in education.
I feel like I took one psychology course in college before I failed out, and I was learning a lot about the Freudian something?
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's why I got into it, because I loved it. I was passionate about it and wanted to keep learning. So
very, very interesting stuff. So generalized degree in psychology, FAU to grad school, where you got your, is it master's? Master's in mental health.
Right. Counseling, yeah.
Counseling, and then you're a certified addiction professional.
Well, first I got my license, so that took another couple years after you graduate with your master's. You have to be under supervision for 2 years. So that took an additional 2 years.
So you're working while you're going to school?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the field. and another job. I mean, just to make a living as well.
Right. So you part-time or full-time job to pay the bills. Probably
like
working as an intern for free.
Right.
Another full-time job while going to school full-time and being monitored. That's extremely intense, I can imagine.
And then the certification, that was recent.
Awesome. Okay. So what is like your like daily, I guess, workflow, or like what do you take from your education that you learned in all those years, and what are you actually doing inside of a program or a facility?
We do a lot. Where I work is a detox setting, so it's really fast paced, which I like. I prefer that. But the education piece, I mean, you have to be able to understand people, and it's not, so you get all of your education, but it's not really until you're working with people and in the field that it all starts clicking. Yeah,
and I worked with you for about a year and a half, close to 2 years. And that, like you said, it's a very fast paced setting, and you deal with people who are like fresh, like just off of, some are still under the influence.
Right.
And, just to kind of take a step back as well, like what led you to kind of choose the field? Was there anything major that happened, someone that you knew that like personally affected you? Or was it just kind of like you started at this point with psychology and just kind of, went into that field?
Really, I got the interest in high school and just kept going with it. And when I started taking classes, and then, became more in love with the field and wanted to learn more. But I've always had the compassion to help people. So that was, the driving force behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy, because like I said, you're dealing with people who are so fresh, and like when you see people come in and they come in time and time again, like they're 6, 7 time, and it's almost like it's hard to kind of get through to people like when they're at that level. But for yourself, I know you're not doing it so much now, but like when you first started getting into it, being a primary therapist, right? And you had to talk to people and like sometimes kind of talk them off the ledge from like leaving and stuff like that. I'm just kind of curious, like what was it? What is it like when you see someone kind of like get that aha moment, like that light bulb moment where they genuinely get that breakthrough or something clicks for them? And
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best feeling to know that you're helping them, with whatever it is they're going through, get to that next phase. So it's an amazing feeling, but that's part of the challenge is, I've worked in the field since 2005, and I would say, the biggest challenge is working with people who actually want to change and taking the steps to change, so that's the biggest challenge I see.
What differentiates someone who wants to make the change versus someone who doesn't? Why is that? Why is it better, worse, or more challenging than one or the other?
They're not taking any steps, so you can give them all the resources and education and tools, but then they don't do anything with it, so then it's frustrating, And
I feel like that's like especially like in a detox setting, with you saying like people are coming in there so fresh, like that's kind of a weird stage, like for a lot of people. They don't really make a lot of changes till later on down the road.
Right.
Plus people are like in and out of there.
Yeah, so I mean people know, I mean somebody who's listening might not know like what a detox is. I mean, could you just kind of in layman's terms just explain to someone what is a detox? Why would someone go? How long do they stay?
So where I work is a medical detox facility where people are coming in to get help to safely get off of, or comfortably get off of, opiates, alcohol, benzos, or any other drug. So we give medication to help them safely come off of it and comfortably. And the stay could be anywhere from 24 hours to right now 10 days, but our role as a therapist is a lot of support, a lot of helping them get to that next step and not take off, or they have such impulsive behaviors in detox, or dealing with a lot of guilt and remorse and shame, or no education whatsoever, so you see everything.
Yeah, I could imagine it's probably hard to get to know someone and get a feel for what makes them tick and all the underlying issues of, you know, addiction and the disease in that short of a time frame.
Right.
And I'm sure part of what, you know, someone in your position would specialize in would be, when you say getting them to the next point, it's getting them to the next point of treatment.
Right. Yeah.
Right, which would be a lower level of care or
Right.
a longer term
Right. Exactly.
program where they live there.
Right.
Okay. So I feel like, you know, there's you know, Christian previously stated there's a lot of controversy with the, you know, industry, and, you know, he, you know, talked about his personal recovery, and, you know, we have been doing this for a few months now, and we kind of dance around the whole point that, like, and I can say it openly now that, like, you know, I'm in recovery. You know, I've been clean for over 7 years now. You know, it's one of those things where we kind of, when we started it, we were like, it's not about, this isn't about recovery. It's not a show or a podcast about recovery. You know, we're not, you know, doing this to tell people what we do or how we live our lives or tell you what works for us. I mean, because it's really not that this thing doesn't work like that. Recovery doesn't work like that. It's really an individualized approach. Yeah, like, I'm happy that we're discussing this type of stuff too, because it really is, you know, it truly is an epidemic and a huge problem. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that they can get the help. They don't know where to find the help. Even though to us, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you just call a detox or you call a treatment center and you show up with your insurance card and you go in and you get help. You know, some people don't even know that, you know, maybe families or loved ones, people don't know that type of stuff. But what I wanted to ask you was, so obviously in any industry or in any field, there's good and bad. Good restaurants, bad restaurants, good mechanics, bad mechanics. What are some tools that people can use to differentiate a good place from a bad place? How do you know that if, you know, someone is, you know, traveling to a facility or any program from a different state, like how can you know that it's the right place for them, or how do you know that it's a legitimate business, or what tools and resources can you use to know that you're making the right choice in sending your, you know, loved one or child from point A to point B at a facility? You know, how can people know?
I mean, that's even something I struggle with working in the field, because we send people to all different types of places, and I'm very skeptical to send somebody somewhere if they're not accredited, if there's not certain regulations, word of mouth. Yeah, it's scary, because
so what accreditations can people look for?
There's JCO, Joint Commission. There's CARF, DCF.
So most places, if they had these things, they would probably advertise them somewhere.
Absolutely.
Website. Or,
right.
Okay, so if someone's looking.
I've heard of a website too that, like, if I forget what that's called, but somebody can, like, post on there, like, this guy, you know, or don't go to this place, don't go to that place, and it stays up.
Well, those are, like, I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
I mean,
anybody can put that shit up there, I guess.
Right. Okay, and, like, you're talking, like, reviews, right?
Yeah.
You can't base a facility based upon. You can and you can't.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I only go put reviews up to places when I'm pissed off.
Right.
You don't go put, I had a great experience and this place changed my life.
Right.
You're already off living your life.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, if sometimes people need to break that stigma, and if they have a good experience, go and talk about it, because that could help someone else. But yeah, so what Joint Commission, is that just for treatment programs, or that's medical field, right?
Yes. Okay. So hospitals, it could be just a mental health facility. Yeah.
So certain programs or even hospitals might have that accreditation, where certain.
So you're held to, like, a certain standard of care.
How do you get it? How do you or what's
so it's tough. So there's a lot of regulations and things that you have to pass in order to get this, you know.
And they actually come into your facility, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. It's not easy at all. So if you see that a facility has these different accreditations, you know that they didn't just, you know, put it on their website. They had to do a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone from a professional organization or a professional board came into the facility, dissected your process, sat with your employees.
Everything. Every document, every policy, every procedure, And it has to be renewed every, few years. Every different accreditation has certain time frame.
Perfect. So I mean, I feel like that's a great starting point for somebody who may be looking for help for someone.
Right.
If you're, browsing the internet or looking at websites or whatever it is, I guess you can look for that seal, and you can always ask.
Right.
You can always ask, are you Joint Commission accredited or what have you? And I guess that's a great starting point.
Because you never really know, and like you were saying, it's hard, if you're trying to not only send, someone, but like for us who've been down here, I've been down here for like 5 years, and you hear a lot of different things, like she was saying, word of mouth, and you hear about places that aren't exactly the most legitimate, whether it's from Detox all the way to aftercare, like halfway houses and stuff like that. So it's tough because we do have, like, there is a bad stigma around, like, recovering around this field, this industry. But I know for myself, it played a huge role. Like the people that I when I first came down here, like the people that worked there, the therapists, the techs and stuff like that, it was like a big thing for me to see regular people. And most of the time, like the techs there were, in my position a few years back. So it was a huge thing, but like I know, like I said, there's definitely that bad stigma. Is there anything, like, in your opinion, it could be literally, like legislation, it could be, how certain things are ran, it could be just an overall like insight or perspective. Is there anything that you see or you've seen that you would change if you could?
For the industry, or just looking at addiction as a whole? It
could be either one. Yeah, anything. Just I guess maybe as a whole, as addiction.
So I think, there's a lot of different things, but I think it would be a combination of education, regulations. It's a huge thing, and even positive media and publicity, because everything's so focused on the negative. And even, maybe places pairing up with each other and supporting one another, but that education piece is huge, and the regulations. So not just anybody can open up a place.
Exactly. And I know from my experience that there has been people who have, worked at facilities in certain positions who were not educated or certified to be working there.
Right.
And that's the scary thing,
right.
That's one of those things where it's like, that's why the Joint Commission and all that type of stuff is so super important, I feel.
And those regulations too, because even halfway houses now, there's certain regulations that, a good one will have, and that you can look up. That might be something that you were talking about too, FAR accreditation, that you can look up online. And if it was me sending somebody, I'd want to go to some place that's regulated,
Right.
So.
Yeah, so I mean, South Florida, if people are listening and they don't know where we are, we're in South Florida. We reside, in Palm Beach County, most of us. They consider this, I don't know if it's still like out there, but the recovery capital of the world, and you're talking about stigmas and bad things, and yet there's been a lot of media, especially in the past 2 years, with these places who were prostituting women and giving them drugs to get them to come back to the facility, and that stuff, it's sickening. And I think that it is important that people like us who have had a good experience stand up and can tell people, like, listen, good and bad everywhere.
Right.
Recovery is a very, very challenging thing. It's hard to get clean and sober, or stay clean and sober, whatever you want to call it. And it's just, you're one bad decision away from being the person who's, giving someone drugs or receiving drugs, and you're in a facility and you're getting washed back with different levels of care and all that shit. I mean, it's sick. It really is. But on the other hand, I think that in the quote-unquote recovery capital of the world, we have an extreme advantage where other people and places might not have, right? So when I got clean in 2011, I was living in a place in Delray that had, I think 12 other guys. We were all clean, we were all around the same age, and I had access to, things that I wouldn't have access to up north. Clubhouses with meetings around the clock, just always, everything that I did in my life was surrounded or encompassed with, recovery. Whether it was, I was going to work, or I was going to a meeting, or I was going to a social event with other people in recovery. Like I had the ability to surround myself with people in recovery. Every place that I went, there was someone in recovery, which you may not have the option to do that if you live, you know, in South Dakota, you know, Maine, Vermont, you know, it's a little bit different, you know. So with all that flooding of people coming here, you're going to get some bad eggs and some people are trying to take
like
advantage.
you said, with anything though, you know, good cops, bad cops, good doctors, bad anything.
Exactly.
There's always going to be good and bad.
Exactly. Yeah, I just feel like I think it's really interesting that you talked about like good publicity, because I think that there's so much bad, and you know, there's you hear a good story every once in a while, but it's very, very rare that as South Florida, the recovery capital of the world, ever get, you know, a good
it's just
rap.
like news though too, you know, the news
In the media, they twist things and skewed. But also it's an anonymous thing, so it's hard. It's like, how do you stand up and tell people, like, you know, this when we practice, you know, anonymity, and if it's only up to me to tell you if I'm in recovery, and I can't, you know, tell someone else that, you know, you're in recovery, or I can't tell a group story, I can only tell my own. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's, you know, with news, like, obviously that's the whole point, is to get ratings, and like the negative stories are always, you know, going to be the ones everyone wants to tune into, like the negative stories that people pull out or put out there. So yeah, I think that is a big thing, is, you know, more, not necessarily, because it is kind of conflicting, like Andrew was saying, like, you know, you want to get up and, like, you know, say something in terms of like a positive, you know, message or whatever, but you also don't want to give too much details, because there's a lot of this program, or a lot of this process that, you know, needs to remain anonymous, and it needs to be about, you know, attraction, you know, so I think it is difficult, but I am, you know, like I said, for myself, it is like a huge part of my story. And I know when I went to you know, detox, and when I went to treatment, there was like my first, I mean, I was like really naive. It was like my first time going through it, but, you know, my primary therapist, you know, helped me get through a lot, you know, and unfortunately it's kind of tough, because, you know, you guys do get bad reps sometimes from like someone who's coming in, they don't want to hear it. They, you know, you're telling them things that they need to hear, but they don't want to hear it, you know. So
how many times did you go to treatment, Christian?
I went twice.
Kind of to go off what he was just saying, like, what's your general philosophy towards helping? Is it more like directive, or
honestly, it depends on the individual.
Yeah,
you kind of have to, like,
it really does, and it's meeting them where they're at, because like you said earlier, every individual is different. So that's something I've learned throughout the years, is you have to meet the person where they're at, and it's just a skill that you learn over time, you know.
What did you ask, if it was directive or what?
Or guiding?
Like her approach.
What is that?
Her approach to
what does that mean?
Like you're gonna do this, or like
directive is like giving a suggestion, or like a command almost.
I don't know.
Or you're thinking more of like there's some therapists who are put
like
people down, or There's
it's like a smart way of saying it.
You know, I just didn't understand the question. I just wanted to understand.
There's different styles. There's different approaches. I think if you're a good therapist, is gonna feel the patient out, right? I say patient because I'm in a medical setting right now, but feel the client out and meet them where they're at. And it's a skill and a technique you learn, because sometimes people need a directive approach. And other people, if you hit them that way initially, they're not going to respond to you.
Yeah.
So you initially have to even just get them to trust you and build that rapport, which takes time too, you know?
And I know probably too, like, depending on how long someone's been doing it, but is it something that you find like you got to like consult with like peers in the same field? Like,
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You find yourself in situations where you don't necessarily have the answers.
Absolutely.
That's just like early recovery.
Yeah.
You know? It's crazy how similar they are. It's like, you know, that's what I learned when I got clean. I was like, my thinking is fucked up.
Right.
You know, so, you know, you need to like run my ideas and decisions and choices by other people for a certain period of time. And still even today, when I'm thinking about making a big decision, my first call is usually to someone else.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, look, do you think this is a good idea? Like, what do you think
100%.
about this?
The first year I was down here, Andrew made every choice for me for like a solid year, and even now, I'm like, hey, just take my car and sell it.
Support is huge, no matter whether it's recovery, whether it's your profession, your personal life. We all need that,
Big time.
Yeah, networking and relying on other people and like just human contact in general. I feel like is so. People just don't do it anymore. It's like one of those things because we're so connected to our devices and the internet. It's like if I have a question, I just Google it, or I could just ask another human being and have a conversation.
Right.
Like that stuff is so important. Okay, so from an education standpoint, right? There's a lot of people, and this is a controversial topic, so I'm excited to get into it, right? Because some people think that okay, so I use a certain drug or a substance for so many years. I get off of it, for a couple years. My life gets better, and I continue to, use other substances, whatever it is. Maybe they didn't get to the point where they were broken, or maybe they just wanted to, make different choices. But addiction as a whole, do you see it more as a disease? Do you see it as a disease, or do you see it as a choice where people are making the wrong choices?
Well, I think it starts with being a disease, but then it comes down to choices you make. It always comes down to choices you make, but that's the part of the disease where it affects your brain and your ability to make good decisions or control your impulses in certain situations or times and things like that, or you going back to it, or the insanity of that part.
It's very intriguing to me because I know people that I grew up with people who IV heroin users for years and years and years, and then they maybe stop or go to treatment or what have you, and then they stop doing that and they just continue on with their life using other drugs and alcohol. And it I guess when I see that type of thing, I start to think in my head that maybe I can live my life that way, right? But the point of the fact and the matter is that, like, I truly believe and internalize and feel that addiction is a disease, and I feel that way because it comes out in other ways in my life other than just substances.
Right.
Even the way that I think sometimes is like, it's just not normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think what you said is huge though. Like, it starts with a disease, and then after, not that the disease goes away, but then once you're like aware that it's a disease, once you're aware of like what's happening, then now it's a choice.
And you have the tools, and you have the education, and you have the support, and you have those things in place. Yeah, ultimately it comes down to a choice you make.
Right. What about it being hereditary?
Yeah, it definitely, that's one of the things we ask every single person if you have a family member. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just feel like I was fucking doomed from the start because both my parents are, and shout out to my mom who always listens, both my parents are in recovery for, a long time. Biological
predisposition, someone with schizophrenia, could be hereditary too.
Right.
So you have a biological predisposition. Doesn't mean you're going to get schizophrenia, right?
Yeah.
But you have this predisposition. So something in your life could...
Same thing with like other illnesses too.
Yeah, like diabetes. Like once you find out that you have diabetes, it's your responsibility to take care of it. Which is the same thing with, I think, what you're saying with addiction. Once you find out that you have an issue, like that issue, you need to do whatever you have to do to fix. Or you don't have to. You can like continue to
die.
You can die. Yeah, you can choose not to. But once you're aware, then it's I feel that you can't use it as an excuse anymore.
Yeah, once you know, you can't unknow.
Yeah.
Right. I use actually the diabetes example all the time. So if you go to a doctor and they say you have diabetes, they educate you and they say, this is what I want you to do. I want you to do this, this, and this to regulate it. You make those choices to take your medicine, to exercise, to eat healthier. All of those things are going to regulate it. But same thing with depression. With anything, you have to work at it. You can't rely on just, a pill or an excuse or so.
And how often does, I'm sure they correlate a lot, but like mental illness and addiction, how often do they Is it not really like a stat, right? But is it?
I'm sure it is. I don't know, but it's usually hand in hand.
Right.
Usually someone with a mental illness, primarily abuses substances, and usually most of the time, somebody with primary substance abuse issue, there's some type of mental health. So.
That's a huge one. Because
I thought I was depressed and bipolar for many years, and I just stopped using drugs, and I got healthier. But I know that's just
right.
I know that people have legitimate.
Same thing for me. I'm still, a little fucked up in the head. Not
we know.
I have my days, But that, for me, that's what it was. It was like, once you stop using drugs, it was easy to, like, find a different way to, like, live and be comfortable in that. And now it's like I don't even really think about using or wanting to use, or when I see people drinking, it doesn't seem like, oh shit, like I gotta get out of here,
Right.
I just don't really want to fucking do it.
Right.
But now it's like all the mental shit that's like, that's fucking, it's tough.
Yeah, but I can relate to that. Like when I was using, I thought for sure I was crazy. Like I thought for sure that there was like something, really like wrong with me. And then, like you said, everyone has a little bit of crazy in them, but it's crazy what happens once you stop using every single day. Then all of a sudden you're not like clogged, cloudy.
I still have my days, but it's a million times better than like what it was 2-3 years ago.
Right now. So, in Florida, as, an educated young woman who has a good job and all that stuff and an incredible career path, what type of stuff do you do for fun? Like what do you do to unwind and decompress, and what type of hobbies are you into? What type of stuff do you do other than work?
The work I do can be exhausting.
Right.
So it's really important that you have good self-care. I personally have a huge family. I'm Italian, so I have
I could tell.
a lot of family down here. So we always have some type of an event going on.
Okay.
Always. So family's a big thing for me. But self-care is really important. So knowing to say, you know what, I'm going to relax and just watch a movie, or not right now, but I used to, be active in yoga or doing something. You have to keep yourself healthy, and you have to find what it is for you, because for every individual, that's different too. For some people it's the gym or outdoor things, or,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've been like in and out of the gym for many years. It's like one of the, foundations of my, recovery, my life in general. It helps me stay balanced. And then, other than that, I'm like big into jet skis and we live in a place where you can swim all year round, and beautiful beaches and lakes and fresh water. And, so like I found an interest in that, and I just grab a hold of it, and it's been like amazingly, life-changing.
Right.
I've learned a lot about myself through those hobbies and things, and I've learned how to work with my hands, and I've learned a lot of things from hobbies, and they're
it's huge. Yeah,
it's super
beneficial.
important.
Yeah,
it's huge. Yeah, because as opposed to like sitting at your house and like not doing anything 24/7 when you get off of work, is like, I personally would go crazy.
Right.
I have, even if I'm like, I read a book, or I take my dog to the dog park, like whatever it is, something like, and that's, I think what Andrew was saying, like the gym was huge for me, because that's like, I'm tired. It's like a kid, I'm tiring myself out, or like a dog, when I take my dog, you tire them out, and then when they get back, it's like, they just want to sleep, or you just feel naturally like, I guess just, tired and ready to just, I guess, unwind or whatever. So hobbies, finding different things, I think is a huge thing too, to kind of help take up your time.
And the beach.
Beach is great.
The sun.
Yep.
You know what though? I can't tell you the last time. Kelly's birthday, that we were at the beach, not like on a jet ski.
That was like last month, wasn't it?
It was Kelly's birthday.
Yeah.
But before that, it was a long time.
Yeah, it's great to just, pack a cooler, a bunch of friends, and just sit on the beach area. We could do that any day here, which is, I feel like that also played a huge part in my early recovery, right? Because where I grew up in New Jersey, it's cold and desolate, and most people usually leave that area for that time of year, winter time. I just was like always just hanging out in the basement, like just fucking getting high.
Yeah.
That's just what I did. you know. And then when I moved here, it's like, oh shit, like I can hang out outside, I can, you know, ride a bike, I can skateboard to the beach, you know, I could do, there's so many things that I could do.
And it's all
that was just important for me.
Right.
Yeah, it was very, very important for me, and I feel like that played a huge part. And you know, and people want to talk shit on Florida, and they want to say all this bad shit, and it's just like,
no,
like come experience something for yourself before you talk about it. Like that's, you know.
And some people are just naturally just negative and just won't.
They're just haters.
Right. They just won't be. You know, I've met a few people in my life that's like they're just people I just want to avoid.
Are you talking about me, dude? They call me positive.
But that's smart that you can recognize that, you know, that the people we spend our time with and hang around affect our energy a lot.
Really, average of the 5 people you hang out with.
Yeah,
right? That's
absolutely. With motivation, with your mood, with everything.
Yeah.
Big time. So, I think just about most of the questions.
Where are we at? How long have we been talking?
I have no friggin' idea. You know, we've just been so freaking comfortable and freaking talking about diabetes and all kinds of stuff.
All right, well, cool. I mean, if no one has anything else they want to talk about, we could wrap it up here. Thank you so much for coming out and talking with us.
45 minutes.
45 minutes. That's great. That's a solid episode there. So yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie, for coming out and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
You know, with us. It's always good to have, you know, professional, educated people on the show to share, you know, with other people. That's kind of like what we're trying to accomplish here. Like Christian said in the beginning, is we just want to share what we have, and you know, we have a platform here. Like this day and age is just amazing. You know, like where else could you do something like this? You know, like 10 years ago, for example, we would have had to been on FM fucking radio, right, with advertisements and publishers, and you know, and we can get out here and we can put out a podcast on iTunes, you know, and we can kind of share something positive, and we can kind of share, you know, our experience. You can share your experience, and you know, maybe by the end of this show, somebody is listening who has a family member who's struggling with addiction and doesn't know that there's a way out, or doesn't know that they can change their life, or that or geographical change fucking works for some people. You know, it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. But like, you know, we're here to share with people and like, you know, tell people that, you know, it is possible. You know, freedom from the mental prison that you may be in is possible, no matter where you're at in the country. And you know, there's 3, 4, 5 people sitting right here in this room that can attest to that, and that will be willing to help other people. So, you know, our Instagram is out there, our email is out there. You know, if anybody who's struggling with, you know, mental health, substance abuse, whatever it might be, reach out to us if you'd like. We can kind of share our experience with you, maybe, you know, guide you in the right direction. Because just like we discussed, you know, this is life and death, you know, for many, many people. And there's help out there. You just have to ask for it. And just like we need to ask for help even today in our lives, there's other people who need to learn how to live, you know. And we can certainly, you know, lend an ear, lend a hand. Anything that we can do, we're super excited to help. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.